This is Abhishek Sengupta and welcome back. You are listening to Abhishek Sengupta audio blogs. Now we are here with another episode of Knowledge Talks. Now in this episode, we have with us Günther Rainer. Günther Rainer is based in Vienna, Austria. He is the CEO and founder of Guracademy. He helps aspiring entrepreneurs break free by creating a business without funding a specific idea or a team. He mentors doing all while easily balancing work and life. With a proven track record of contributing multi-billion-dollar success across various corporate innovation and startup teams, he now unveils his hard-earned secrets to empower aspiring entrepreneurs. He believed that within each of us lies the potential to discover groundbreaking opportunities, launch ventures despite limitations, and achieve greatness that others might deem impossible. Now, as he is here with us, we have selected a very interesting topic: business without a large budget. First and foremost, Gunther, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited about the topic. To be honest, that topic is my most favorite topic to speak about. And I cannot wait to dive deeper into the nitty-gritties of starting without much resources. I'm super excited. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. I'll go straight to the points. Now, budget is important in business. That is quite expected. So first and foremost, we would like to know how budget is important in business. Now, is it really possible to build business without or with a large budget? Over to you.
That's a question I get most often, I guess. And I mean, so let's be real here. I cannot say no, budget is not important at all. Of course, budget definitely plays a role. But what we as entrepreneurs need to understand, budget plays a role in very specific phases throughout a journey when you start your business. Later in a stage when you talk about scaling or growth, budget is extremely important. When we're talking about starting a business though, budget is not so much important. I would go even that far and say budget is hindering you. And at that point, I like to give my students always my hard-earned lessons right away. When I was starting out in a corporate startup, it was a large team. We were a large team, about like 30 people. And our financial budget, our financial resources we had as a team was literally unlimited because it was backed up by a major insurance company. So our budget was literally like unlimited. And because we always had that knowledge that we can do whatever we want, our budget, we have enough budget to get us through hard times. And you know where it got us? It got us nowhere. It got us nowhere from where we started off to our initial goal to become like a unicorn. It got us nowhere. And on the sideline of this like corporate startup, I discovered we had a smaller team of just 2 people. And for whatever reason, like that 2 people, they were operating with a very small budget, like a very small budget. And that team outperformed us by like magnitude of an order of magnitude. They like in a couple of months, really, they went from $0 to $100,000 of revenue. And currently they are aiming at like $1 million. And they are 2 people, and they were like under such constraints. And that got me thinking for the first time that budget might actually be hindering you. And I was then closely observing that team, and that's where my approach to business finally got like more refined. And yeah, that was my main learning, that budget might actually be hindering you, especially if you start off. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. I really like the case study which you have just given. First and foremost, a big corporation with an unlimited budget, literally. And finally taking it nowhere. And whereas the only 2% company, the company operated by 2% with a very small budget and really did to whatever job. So that's very interesting. That's very inspiring. I personally think that at certain point of time, certain resource, excessive of the resource also kills the idea. That's point number one. And the small budget with right and optimum utilization of the resources can really lead to great successes. I think this case study is very important, which you have given, number one. And second thing you have, which you have made, is that at times budget can act as a hindrance and hurdle. Budget is, suppose, money, budget, whatever you pick it as, is a fantastic resource if you know how to use it. But if you are giving budget in the wrong hands or incompetent hand, I must say, so it's basically goes at times for a waste and without much of it. So some of the very good pointers which we got from you. Now this takes me to the second point. What are some practical steps or strategies that entrepreneurs can take to initiate a business without relying on the substantial budget? I have already, I have met with many entrepreneurs that, I'm waiting for the budget to come. So I don't have budget, so I can't start a business and all those stuff. Or probably I do not inherit a business, so I cannot start it, and all those stuff. I keep on listening. Mm-hmm. So what is your thought on this? How do you think that, without relying on a substantial budget, how can an entrepreneur or an aspiring startup founder can take it further? Over to you, Gunther.
Yeah, that is a wonderful question. Maybe let's make the question even broader and not just include budget, because I think there's one thing that is even more important, and that is time. Because time just knows one direction, budget can fluctuate up and down. Because the question I always get is okay, I might or might not have budget, but you know what I'm lacking most? I'm lacking most time. I'm working maybe a day job, I'm working 9 to 5. Where should I even find time to start a business? That's the first question I always get, beside the money question and the budget question. And it led me to actually think closer and go into my own courses and programs. And just last week, that question got me thinking. And I did reevaluate all my courses and all my students, and I came up with a very interesting number. And let me pop it back to you. What do you think? What is the average number my students need per day to go from zero, having absolutely no idea, to first acquiring a paying customers? What do you think is the average hours a day they need? Do you have an idea?
It can even be 1 hour to whatever you get. I think even 1 hour of quality work, or I must say 1 hour of properly focused work, can, over a period of time, that can build a lot of impact, I must say. My view on that.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely spot on. I did the number crunching, and it was 1.5 hours a day on average over a course of 90 days. And that's all they need. So that is kind of my key take, or my key point I wanna get across for everyone who is listening. If you can get up 1 hour early in the morning, and maybe get a half an hour in somewhere else, you have a 1.5 hours a day, congratulations, you have what it takes to start. That's literally it. And then the question you really asked, the budget question, what are really practical tips to overcome the budget question, the budget or the financial hurdle to start. And there's one recent example which I'm absolutely fascinated with. I don't know how closely you follow Elon Musk, for instance, but most recently he unveiled the Cybertruck. And the interesting thing is he actually 4 years ago pitched it to all of us. He pitched it 4 years with a quote unquote very shitty prototype. And that is so interesting. That whole approach, 4 years ago, he pitched it and people bought it, even though it was not able to buy. You were not able to get it after now, 4 years later. And that is the process I preach for entrepreneurs who think they don't have money to really start. First of all, it starts with a problem, understanding what problem you solve. And after that, and that is where usually entrepreneurs split off. Because like most of the time they're very motivated to build something, and that's a great thing, but I need to like stop them at the beginning and say like, don't build it just yet. Take the playbook from Elon Musk and make an easy demonstration. You can make a demonstration for anything, the most complex product you have in mind. You can make a demonstration, be it a landing page, be it a PowerPoint presentation, whatever it might be. You can make this in like 2, maybe 3 days, or like if you're super busy, a week, and it doesn't cost anything. And then I tell them, all right, now you have your first demonstration consisting of your unique value proposition, point 1, of a price tag that is part of any product, and the demonstration how your product would actually solve that problem. And you pitch it to your customers. What do they say? Do they say like, oh yeah, hell yeah, I give you the money, and like, here we go? If they say, I don't know, I'm not gonna buy it, then why would you go out and build it? So the idea is to get the funding first with a very fast and rapid prototype, like a demonstration, like a PowerPoint, like a landing page. Doesn't cost anything. Well, a landing page, maybe like $10. And really acquire and secure paying customers first. That is really the key takeaway here. And also, beside Elon Musk, Apple does the exact same thing. Recently with their Vision Pro, they aimed at like early adopters with a very high price tag. And people were like already able to like sign up and get on waiting lists, but it doesn't ship until like a year later. So it's the same playbook, and we as entrepreneurs need to understand that like going out and building it is an outdated approach. We need to first secure customers, and then once we have them, then we can like start building it. That is really the key idea to building something out of nothing, literally.
That's really amazing. Wonderful points I have taken it up while you were saying. First and foremost, we have to really take care of time. Money comes later, because you have rightly pointed that money is time is one way flowing commodity. It doesn't come back, and budget goes up, budget goes down. You can refund yourself and whatever. But once you lose the time, you cannot refund your time. So that is number one. Secondly, you have rightly mentioned that 1.5 hours a day for 90 days can really create wonders. It's enough for creating a product, probably not the product, probably the prototype of the product, whatever you take it as. Third, you have rightly mentioned the example of Elon Musk, the problem and the solution. I always say that every business is a solution to some kind of problem or other, or even if it is not a solution, it is the enhancement of the existing solution. So if you actually go to your customer and present your product and say, this is the problem I'm solving, if they are excited, you are done. If they are not excited, probably you have to come and rework. Because I have basically seen the entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs, they create a solution and then they look for problem. Ideally, it has to be the other way around. So some of the wonderful pointers which we got from you. Now, this takes me to the third point. In terms of marketing and outreach, what cost-effective methods or unconventional approaches have you found to be particularly effective for entrepreneurs on tight budget? Over to you.
Yeah, the topic about marketing is super interesting. And I always tell my students that marketing is a really broad topic. Marketing includes the product, marketing includes price, promotion, a place where to put your promotion. So marketing is more than just advertisement, because my students always like they They think marketing equals advertisement, which is just like one part of it. So when going through that whole process of discovering your problem, defining a solution, one part of marketing is already, you can already check it, and that is already a really good step. When it comes to advertisement, though, I always preach the very simple and memorable approach of the pirate metrics, where you start off with acquisition, activation, and then more move into revenue and referrals. So like you have a funnel and you need to focus your advertisement on one very specific stage of your funnel. So when my students start off, they usually have no idea where to start. And obviously we need to focus on the very first steps of acquisition and activation. And to be honest, there is no like magic bullet I can provide, because it's very straightforward. You have options from content marketing. You can have webinars work well. It depends a little bit on the product itself and on the service itself. But the idea is really to know where you are in your journey, have a goal in mind, and don't just advertise for the sake of advertising it. Pick one where you feel comfortable, be it content marketing, be it email, be it driving traffic to a landing page, and experiment with it. Try it out for a week or two, for a sprint, and reevaluate how effective actually was it. And I've seen, because you asked for very creative ways, I have seen some very creative ways my students approached. One of them tried a pop-up stand as like an advertising gimmick. One tried a flash mob once, which I thought was very creative. And I think one even tried like some street art, very unconventional. But again, the idea was really not to do it randomly, but really focus on one very specific step along your journey. And based on that, choose wisely what you try and track it over a week, give it time and reevaluate it. That's really the process I preach my students, and with great success, really. Yeah.
Wonderful. First and foremost, the concept which I like is marketing is not about advertisement. People, marketing means people go for, advertise and pay money and all these things. It is not exactly into this. Marketing is a broader aspect, number one. Second thing which you have mentioned is the funneling. You have to really funnel who is your target market, because when you are putting your marketing effort, it goes to a wider range, that you have to funnel out and find out who is the target market, and that leads to acquisition. And of course, third thing, it's not a magic bullet. Even the marketing efforts fail. It not only happens with small entrepreneurs, it even happened with big corporations. It failed. So marketing is not a magic bullet. Some of the very good pointers which you have said, which an entrepreneur on tight budget can explore, is probably the content marketing, webinars, email marketing. And after we do all these things, one should go, first of all, we should do it for over a period of time. And then after probably a period of time, person can go and reevaluate what is working, what is not working. If something is not working, why is it not working? How one can make it work. And if it is working, let's put more effort on this. So trying and evaluation, and these are two very important steps which one must carry on. Some of the wonderful pointers which we got from you. Now, this takes me to the next point. How can an entrepreneur effectively manage and optimize their expenditure when there is a scarcity of fund available for business growth? Over to you.
Yeah, I love that question, because it is. I have a very specific answer in mind, because I hear that question so many times, really. And I always say in one word, prioritize. And then my students usually look at me with a very confused look, like, what do I mean with prioritize? And then I give them the example. If you have a long chain, a metal chain, and if you would pull on that, if you would have like two trucks pulling that chain apart, the first chain that would break, the first piece of chain is the weakest link that would break first. And that is the key. When I say that, you see the light bulbs go up on my student. Okay, well now, okay, we need to focus to strengthen the weakest link. And that is really the theory of constraint. There's a wonderful book out there called The Goal from Elijah Goldratt. And for everyone listening, it's definitely worth a read. And he points out that at any given time, there is one specific part in your business that is quote unquote the weakest link. And by applying that thinking, you'll see that you have a couple of different kinds of constraints. They can either be external, but they also can be internal. Internal would be a money constraint, people constraint, staffing constraint, equipment constraint, but they also can be external. And by external, the market constraint could be a market constraint, a starting constraint. And I always tell them, when you start off, I can tell you 99 out of 100%, it will be a market constraint, an external constraint. That means, in simple terms, that you have a constraint by demand. You need to first understand your demand side. That is your first constraint. You need to focus all your effort on to understand, do you have demand and can you deliver? That comes a little bit back to the question we had before, where we have to say, like, you need to understand in what phase you are when advertising. So when you have like a demand constraint, you need to focus on the very first steps on the acquisition and activation part. That is really the external constraint most of the time if you start off. And once you figured out that you have a problem solution fit, meaning that you have something, a product or a service that actually solves, and you have validated that solves a real problem, then the constraint probably shifts to a different one. It could be maybe then you have like a budget constraint, maybe then you have a equipment constraint, but at the very beginning, it's mostly a demand and market constraint. And by prioritizing and really being focused on where to put your time and effort on, and trying to deliver on that demand and find out if there is demand, that makes already the whole journey different than focusing on any other part of the chain. We're talking about premature optimization. If you focus on staffing, if you focus on people, that is currently just, if you start off, 99 out of 100% times, it's just not the case. So I really preach that topic and that approach of prioritizing your time and effort wisely by understanding where your current constraints are. That is really what I preach.
What to you? Really amazing. I've taken down some amazing points. First and foremost, I really like the chain and the chain pulling a truck, that particular example. And the first chain which breaks is the weakest link. And I have generally seen the entrepreneurs get nervous or they panic once the weakest link breaks. Instead, it has to be the other way around. Whenever this weakest link breaks, that's something, the identification of the problem of I must say the person should start working out, person should start, strengthening that particular weakest link. I mean, the weak link, whatever the person identifies. So uncoding the weakest link is the first step one must do. Point number one. Now constraint. Now internal and external constraint, because I've even seen the people get jumbled up. What is internal? What is external? They run after money and all this thing. So it is very, very important that a person should understand which one is an internal concept and which one is an external constraint. Now, internal constraint can be worked out. Now, external constraint, do you think it can be worked out? Answer is no. One has to adopt it. One has to re-strategize. So that's how external constraints are dealt with. But it is important to first identify which one is external, which one is internal. And next is the market and demand constraint. Of course, demand and market is again something which we have to closely focus, closely monitor. And I must say this requires a little of mentorship. Mentors like you can definitely help a startup to sail through those, unstable waters, I must say. But this is something which is required for an aspiring entrepreneur or a startup founder. Some of the wonderful points which I caught. Now, this takes me to the next point. Next is, what are the precautions one must take while building business without a large budget? Over to you.
Yeah. So there's really one key point here I want to stress, and I said that before, but I cannot say it enough. It's like you need to discover a problem. It's unbelievable, like how many wonderful, ambitious entrepreneurs are out there, and they are pitching me an idea. And when I say like, that's a wonderful product, I absolutely adore it. But what problem does it solve? And then like you see their eyes widening because they never thought about it. So it is absolutely essential to understand, and not just understand. Let me go a step further. You really need to be so deep into that problem that you love the product, and because like entrepreneurs, I get it, they love their solution because they are in love with it. But I always say that don't marry the solution, date the problem. That's like kind of what my students love to hear, and it's really to focus on the problem and don't marry your solution. Don't get too attached to it, because it leads to a very dark entrepreneurial place, really. That is one point. And then to think through your business model. A business model, it sounds so high level for someone who might have never heard of a business model before, but you can Google it, and a business model is very easy to understand. The business model canvas is a beautiful tool. The lean canvas, easy to understand. And it takes maybe like half an hour, 20 minutes to think it at least through once, so you understand your cost structure. Do you solve a problem? Who is your customer? What pains do they have? So at least think it through for half an hour. I think that is a very doable task for my students. And of course, to operate very lean, that is another one, because usually when we're talking about having a constraint, as we said before, the first idea usually is to throw money at the problem, meaning like having more people, so to overcome the constraint. And usually that again leads to the same problem I had to the story I said before, where I was in that large company with literally unlimited budget, and throwing money at it never made it better. So now I really understand, when you're faced with a problem or a constraint, first try to figure out, okay, how might I actually overcome the constraint with the resources I actually have right now? And then if you already have figured that one out, then you can try and think, okay, do I actually need more staffing? Do I need to have more budget to overcome that constraint? But usually those constraints are to be overcome with your existing resources. That is a point. And precautions also when you're actually having already a solution in mind, to get customer feedback very early on, but not with a fully fleshed MVP or anything. No, with a very fast and rapid demonstration or low fidelity prototype, or however you want to call it, but not with a fully built product. Show them your first idea on a sketch. What do they think? If 10 out of 10 people think that sketch and that idea on that paper thinks, well, then there's a good chance that that idea you have in mind might not be that good. And there's no need to really build it. And the last point comes down to measuring your progress, because we are living in an age where like you can measure everything, and it gets so distracting when measuring everything. With Google Analytics, you can measure everything, but it's more hindering than helping. So I always preach that use your high-level metrics, your pirate metrics. That's enough to be covered through the next 2 years. And once you want to grow to be like a unicorn, well, let's take some metrics, some more detailed metrics in, but keep it very simple at the very beginning. Don't go overboard with high-level metrics you don't even understand. Those are my key points, really.
Amazing, really amazing. So just 3 quick pointers which I have mentioned. First and foremost, you have rightly mentioned that first discover the problem, get deep into the problem. That is more important. So, and do not manage the solution. Solution keeps on changing, solution keeps on upgrading. Don't do that. Number 1. Number 2 is that amazing tool you asked the people to follow is business model canvas. I preach it. I say this to my mentees always. Please follow this. This is an amazing tool. It has for all aspects of business. Third is that you need to create a low fidelity prototype. Now, it is important. People skip prototype like anything, but prototype is something which can really keep on toes, can get market feedback, and will also help you to adapt to the market, number 1, and number 2, improve. So I think some of the wonderful pointers which we got. Now, this brings us to the end of our talk show. And Gunther, very quickly, would you like to put any closing remarks?
Yeah, I would actually love that. So for everyone who is listening, and whoever sees that, and whoever thinks that you might not have what it takes, you might lack the time, or you might lack the money, let me tell you by experience, I know for a fact that you can have 1.5 hours, and that's all it takes to start. When it comes to money and budget and funding, you don't need it. And if anyone tells you differently, even if it's your mom, kick her out. as I'm a straight shooter. I'm telling you. Don't let anyone tell you you cannot start because you lack money. You don't. You absolutely don't. If you can talk to people and solve a problem and show them your demonstration and your low fidelity prototype, that's all you really need. So don't let anyone tell you differently. That's my key takeaway.
Wonderful. I'd really like to 1.5 hours rule. I think something which gets added to my knowledge base right now. Thank you so much. So we are at the end of this wonderful talk show, and thank you so much, Gunther, for sparing time for us. Now, if any of you would like to connect with Gunther, I will give the social media handle of his in the description, using which you can connect with him. That's how we got connected and recording this wonderful episode. To my podcast listeners, I request for a review. I want an honest review how my podcast is helping you and enhancing your life. I'll be back with many such episodes. Till then, stay tuned, stay connected. Have a great day. Thank you so much, Gunther.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Thank you.